Good morning students. As you know that T.S. Eliot has written an influential essay Metaphysical Poets where he has talked about the famous phrase Dissociation of Sensibility. So in this video we are going to talk about this phrase Dissociation of Sensibility, and we are also going to figure it out in a more concise or conceptual way so that you cannot forget it ever again. So before beginning this video, if you are one of those students who believe in smart work rather than hard work, or if you are someone who does not want to waste their hours and hours of time in writing down the notes, then you can simply check out our study material on English literature. I have given the link in the description below. Visit our website limitlessliterature.com to know more about this study material. Now without any further delay, let's begin this video. Before moving on to this phrase, dissociation of sensibility, let's go back to the person who has actually used it in terms of Greek artist. It was T.S. Eliot who talked about this phrase in terms of British poets. But before him, there was a philosopher who has already talked about this concept in terms of Greek artists. So we should not forget that all the British literature theories have already been influenced by some other philosophers or the writers from other nations like France or Germany. Most of the critics or theorists were influenced by France or German philosophers. So there were 4 German philosophers beginning with Edmund Burke, Immanuel Kant, Schiller and Hegel. These 4 German philosophers play a big role in transforming Age of Enlightenment to Age of Romanticism. So whenever we talk about moving from Age of Enlightenment or moving from 18th century to Age of Romanticism or Romantic period, these 4 German writers or these 4 German philosophers play a significant role. Even St. Coleridge or the poetic movement aestheticism was influenced by these 4 German philosophers. In fact, Schiller has written letters on aestheticism where he talked about what is aestheticism and what is the difference between imagination or understanding or rationality. But that is not our point of discussion, because if we talk about all these German philosophers in so much depth, then we may get distracted by the actual point of discussion, which is dissociation of sensibility. So let's come back to the German philosopher, which is Schiller, who has already talked about this concept dissociation of sensibility earlier in terms of Greek artists. T.S. Eliot was the first one who talked about for British poets that British poets do not have that unification of thoughts, that it was only metaphysical poets who had that unification of sensibility and rest of the poets have only dissociation of sensibility. So let's try to understand first what Schiller said, and after that we will discuss what T.S. Eliot had to talk about metaphysical poets. In order to understand this, let's first clear these 2 terms, Apollonian and Dionysian. Apollo was the god of rationality, logic and reasoning, whereas the second, Dionysian, was the god of wine and woman or emotions. And according to Schiller, the Greek artists have both the drives. They can reason and they can imagine. They have rationality as well as understanding. They use logic as well as imagination. So Schiller said Greek artists have that ability to unify both of these drives and create a work of art. So there is Apollonian drive and then there is Dionysian drive. One is god of rationality, one is god of wine, woman and emotions. One is masculine and another one is feminine. One is science, another one is religion. So Schiller said the Greek artists were the great artists just because they can fuse these both of Apollonian and Dionysian drive and create a piece of work. They know how to unify religion with science, man with woman, imagination with rationality, West with East. They know how to unify both of them together. Later on, T.S. Eliot says that this is the same drive which we can find in metaphysical poets. It is metaphysical poets who have this ability to unify 2 different kinds of drives. The one is intellectual and another one is imagination. It is only the metaphysical poets who can or who have that ability to create a piece of work where they can unify different things together. It is the poems of John Donne where we see the unification of rationality as well as emotions. Unfortunately, the Age of Enlightenment, or we can say Age of Pop or 18th century literature, where we find that rationality came over imagination. In the Age of Pop or 18th century literature, we see rationality was the priority. And when we move forward to the Romantic period, we see the imagination was the priority. So in this Age of Enlightenment, we have rationality as priority And in Age of Romantics, we see imagination as being the center point of all the works which was created by S.T. Coleridge, William Wordsworth, John Keats, so on and so forth. But it is metaphysical poets who can combine or who can unify this rationality with imagination. They don't have that kind of dissociation of sensibilities. Metaphysical poets are not dissociating rationality from imagination. They have that ability to unify the thoughts or to unify different topics or different subjects that they have talked about their poems. According to T.S. Eliot, all the other poets which came after metaphysical poets or which were living during his period either have intellectual mindset or either they have imagination mindset. Either they were writing intellectual work or emotional work. T.S. Eliot did not find any unification of intellectual work as well as imaginative work. So it was metaphysical poets who can write intellectual as well as emotional work in a same poem. So I hope you have understood what is unification of sensibility, which T.S. Eliot has used for John Donne and the other metaphysical poets. And for later poets, he used the phrase dissociation of sensibility. If you find the video worth your time, then don't forget to subscribe the channel for more updates on English literature. That's it for this video. Thank you.